Does watching porn ruin your sex life or your relationship? Let me ask you something real, something raw. Have you ever wondered what's actually happening to your mind, your body, and your relationship when you or your partner spends hours watching porn? Because here's the truth that most people won't admit: porn doesn't just change what you watch, it changes how you feel. You see, in the beginning, it feels harmless, exciting even, a fantasy, a way to explore, to escape, to feel that rush of desire. But over time, something subtle starts to shift. Suddenly, reality doesn't hit quite as hard anymore. The real thing, your partner's body, their warmth, their scent, starts feeling different. Not enough, not exciting enough. Because porn trains your brain to crave variety, not intimacy. It feeds you the illusion of perfection, airbrushed bodies, endless energy, zero emotional connection, and then convinces you that that's normal. But here's the thing, my friend, real sex, real connection is beautifully imperfect. It's sweaty, unpredictable, emotional, and yes, sometimes awkward, but that's what makes it real. And when your brain becomes conditioned to the constant dopamine rush of porn, you begin to lose sensitivity, both physically and emotionally. You start comparing, you stop being present. Now, this isn't a shame you for watching porn kind of talk. This is about awareness. Because when you understand what's happening under the surface, you get your power back, you get your connection back. And if you're in a relationship, you know how it feels when your partner is there with you physically, but their mind isn't. That quiet distance, that unspoken feeling of being unseen, that's where porn begins to quietly destroy relationships, not with betrayal, but with disconnection. So today, I want to talk about what porn actually does to your sex life and how to break free from that numbness it creates so you can have deeper, more passionate, real intimacy again. Let's get real for a second. Porn isn't just something you watch. It's something that begins to train your brain. Every time you hit play, you're feeding your mind a powerful surge of dopamine, that rush of pleasure and excitement that makes you want more. The problem is your brain starts to crave that same high again and again. It's like teaching it that fantasy equals satisfaction. But what happens when you step into real life with a real person, real touch, real emotion? Suddenly it's not enough because porn conditions your brain for stimulation, not connection. Think about it. In the world of porn, everything is instant. There's no emotional buildup, no tenderness, no anticipation that deepens the desire. It's pure action, pure release. And your brain learns to expect that fast, exaggerated, and endless. But love doesn't work like that. Real intimacy builds slowly. It's unpredictable, emotional, and full of imperfections. When your brain has been rewired to seek constant novelty and perfection, reality starts to feel dull. The warmth of your partner's skin doesn't create the same spark. The sound of their voice doesn't stir you as much, and genuine closeness starts to feel like something's missing, even when nothing actually is. What's dangerous is that this rewiring doesn't just affect your body. It affects your heart. You become disconnected from the very thing that makes intimacy meaningful, emotional presence. You stop seeing sex as an exchange of energy, trust, and affection, and instead start viewing it as performance. You may not even realize it, but the way you touch, kiss, and connect begins to change. It's no longer about exploring your partner. It's about chasing that feeling of control, that rush of visual stimulation you've trained yourself to need. And here's where it gets heartbreaking. Your partner feels it. They can sense when you're not there with them, when your body is present, but your energy isn't. They feel when your attention is elsewhere, when your eyes are looking, but not seeing. That creates an invisible wall between you, a wall that only grows thicker the more you seek pleasure outside the connection. But here's the truth, you can rewire it back. Your brain is adaptable. You can teach it to crave real connection again. The smell of your partner's skin, the sound of their laugh, the way their heartbeat syncs with yours. When you start being fully present in those moments, no filters, no fantasy, just raw, real connection, your brain begins to light up again. The dopamine returns, but this time it's tied to something meaningful. Because at the end of the day, porn might rewire your brain, but it can never rewire your heart. Your heart knows what it craves, not pixels on a screen, but the warmth of real love, real touch, real intimacy. Here's the thing, when you start consuming porn regularly, you unknowingly begin to blur the line between fantasy and reality. What's happening on that screen isn't real life. It's scripted, staged, and shot from perfect angles to create a specific illusion. But your brain doesn't always know the difference. It absorbs those images, those sounds, those exaggerated reactions, and slowly starts setting them as the new standard for what sex and desire should look like. So when you find yourself in bed with someone real, someone who breathes, who feels, who has emotions, you might start noticing that something feels off, not because they're doing anything wrong, but because your brain has been conditioned to expect a performance, not a connection. You start comparing their body, their moves, even the way they moan to the scenes you've seen on screen. You might think that, why isn't it that intense? Or why doesn't it look like that? And that's where the damage begins, not just to your satisfaction, but to your partner's confidence too. Because when someone senses that they're being measured against an impossible fantasy, they stop feeling desired and start feeling inadequate. You might not even say it out loud, but energy doesn't lie. They'll feel it in your hesitation, in your lack of presence, in the way your eyes look distracted instead of adoring. Porn builds a false narrative of what pleasure is. It focuses on what looks good, not what feels good. Real intimacy isn't about a perfect rhythm or flawless bodies. It's about connection, vulnerability, the slow unfolding of passion between two people who are truly there with each other. When you start comparing real love to on-screen lust, you rob yourself of the magic that happens when two people genuinely connect. The laughter, the unplanned moments, the way time seems to stop when you look into each other's eyes. And what's even worse is that this comparison doesn't just affect your perception of your partner, it affects how you see yourself. You start thinking, am I doing it right? Am I good enough? You start trying to imitate the actors you've seen, forgetting that sex isn't about performance, it's about presence. When you chase that cinematic version of desire, you miss out on the raw, imperfect beauty of reality, the beauty that comes from two hearts beating faster for each other, not for an audience. But here's the good news: the moment you start appreciating the realness, the soft breaths, the clumsy kisses, the shared laughter, everything changes. Because real connection is messy, passionate, unpredictable, and unforgettable. Once you stop comparing what's real to what's fake, you rediscover what true pleasure actually feels like, not through a screen, but through genuine emotion, human touch, and unfiltered love. When porn becomes a regular habit, it doesn't just affect your private moments. It starts to reshape the emotional landscape of your entire relationship. You might not notice it at first, but slowly the space between you and your partner begins to grow. It's not the loud kind of distance that comes with arguments or anger. It's the quiet, invisible kind that creeps in when your attention shifts away from them without you realizing it. You stop looking at them the same way. You stop reaching for them as often. You might still love them, but the intimacy that used to feel electric begins to dull. Here's why. Porn provides instant gratification without vulnerability. It's easy. There's no need to open up, to communicate, or to connect emotionally. You get the release without the risk. But real relationships are built on risk. The risk of being seen, the risk of being rejected, the risk of truly showing who you are. When you start substituting that emotional exchange with a screen, your heart begins to withdraw from real connection. You start saving your desire for moments when you're alone instead of moments when you're together. Over time, your partner begins to feel it too. They may not know exactly what's changed, but they'll sense the shift. The warmth in your eyes fades. The affection becomes mechanical. Those deep, lingering touches that once made them feel cherished start to disappear. Even if you're still physically present, emotionally, you've started to drift. That's how porn quietly chips away at the foundation of intimacy, not by destroying love directly, but by starving it of attention and presence. You see, true intimacy isn't just about physical closeness, it's about energy, the invisible current that flows between two people when they feel seen, desired, and emotionally safe. When porn becomes the main source of stimulation, that current weakens. You start choosing fantasy over connection, and even though your partner is right next to you, it can start to feel like there's a wall between you, a wall built from silence, guilt, and unspoken frustration. It's a painful cycle. The more disconnected you feel, the more you turn to porn to fill the emptiness. And the more you turn to porn, the deeper the disconnection grows. What used to feel passionate now feels polite. What used to be emotionally rich now feels like routine. And the saddest part, both of you begin to feel lonely, even in each other's arms. But the moment you bring awareness to it, things can change. The cure for emotional distance isn't blame, it's honesty. It's choosing to reconnect, to bring your attention back to what's real. When you look your partner in the eyes, hold them without rushing, and allow yourself to feel again. The spark returns, because porn can imitate desire, but it can never replace intimacy. Real love isn't on a screen. It's in the heartbeat you feel when you finally allow yourself to be fully present with the person you love. Porn doesn't just affect your desire, it quietly begins to shape how you see yourself. What starts as a moment of curiosity or pleasure can, over time, turn into something that chips away at your self-confidence and self-worth. You begin comparing yourself, your body, your performance, your energy to what you see on a screen. The actors seem tireless, perfect, and always ready. The scenes are edited, exaggerated, and designed to sell you an illusion of constant pleasure. But when you try to live up to that illusion, reality feels smaller. You start wondering if you measure up, if you're enough, if you're desirable in the same way. That's how insecurity sneaks in, quietly, deeply, and persistently. Men and women both experience this in different ways. For men, it can create pressure, the expectation to perform endlessly, to always be dominant, to never show emotion or tenderness. When that doesn't happen in real life, it can lead to frustration, anxiety, even shame. You begin to see sex as a test of performance rather than a moment of connection. And when you fall short of that impossible standard, you start to internalize it. Maybe I'm not good enough. For women, the damage can look different but feel just as heavy. You start to question your beauty, your body, your worthiness of desire. You see these actresses being idolized and begin to believe that's what men truly want. Flawless bodies, exaggerated confidence, and constant availability. That belief can make you doubt the real power of your femininity, the softness, emotion, and warmth that actually create deep attraction. The tragedy is that the more insecure you feel, the more likely you are to seek reassurance. And sometimes that leads you right back to porn. It becomes a loop. You watch to feel good, then feel worse afterward, and then watch again to escape that feeling. What's really happening is that your confidence is being outsourced to a fantasy, something that doesn't see you, doesn't love you, doesn't value you. It only gives you a temporary illusion of control and validation. Real confidence doesn't come from being perfect. It comes from being present, from showing up as you are, imperfect, passionate, vulnerable, and realizing that's exactly what makes you desirable. When you start letting go of the comparisons and allow yourself to experience real intimacy, you begin to rebuild your sense of worth. Because in real love, there's no director yelling action, no camera capturing angles, just two people, messy and human, finding beauty in each other's truth. When you stop letting porn define your expectations and start defining your own standards for connection, something amazing happens. You begin to feel powerful again. Your confidence stops depending on fantasy and starts growing from authenticity. And that's when sex stops being a performance and becomes an expression of who you truly are. The beautiful truth that most people forget is that your brain can be retrained. You can absolutely reclaim your desire, your passion, and your connection, but it starts with one powerful shift, choosing presence over pixels. Because what porn takes away from you is not just sensitivity or excitement, it steals your ability to be truly in the moment. It disconnects you from the here and now. Reclaiming that means learning to be fully awake in your own body and in your partner's presence again. It begins with awareness, recognizing that what you've been feeding your mind isn't intimacy, it's stimulation. There's a big difference. Stimulation excites you quickly, but it fades fast. Intimacy builds slowly, but stays with you long after. When you start focusing less on chasing highs and more on feeling depth, your whole experience begins to change. The touch of your partner's hand starts to feel electric again. The look in their eyes starts to mean something. You start to crave connection, not release. To reclaim real intimacy, you have to learn to be fully present in your body. That means slowing down, listening, feeling, letting go of the pressure to perform or impress, and instead focusing on experiencing every breath, every movement, every heartbeat between you and your partner. That's where passion lies. The reason real sex can feel more powerful than anything on a screen is because it's unpredictable, imperfect, and deeply emotional. It's a living thing, not a looped video. Being present also means being emotionally honest. Talk to your partner, share your feelings, your insecurities, your desires. When you bring vulnerability back into intimacy, the spark reignites in a way porn never could, because real connection isn't about control. It's about trust. When you allow yourself to be seen completely, without hiding behind fantasy or expectation, you open a space for love that feels raw and exhilarating. Choosing presence also means reconnecting with your senses. Pay attention to the sound of your partner's laughter, the rhythm of their breathing, the warmth of their touch. These are the sensations that real love is built on. The details that your brain stops noticing when it's constantly flooded by digital stimulation. The more you focus on those real sensations, the more your mind begins to rewire itself. And yes, it takes time. Healing always does. But every time you choose to turn toward your partner instead of the screen, you're teaching your brain to desire connection again. You're saying, I choose real over fantasy. That's how you bring back your sensitivity, your excitement, your fire. Because at the end of the day, the most powerful experiences in life don't happen on a screen. They happen in the space between two people who are completely present with each other. That's where intimacy lives. That's where passion breathes. And that's where you remember that real love was never meant to be perfect. It was meant to be felt. So here's the truth. Porn doesn't have to ruin your sex life or your relationship, but it can absolutely rob it of its soul if you let it. What starts as a harmless curiosity can slowly numb you to the beauty of real connection. It conditions you to crave performance over passion, fantasy over feeling, and escape over intimacy. But the moment you become aware of it, the moment you choose to wake up, you can take your power back. Real love, real intimacy isn't about perfection. It's about presence. It's about being there completely emotionally, physically, and mentally when you're with your partner. It's about touching someone not just with your hands, but with your attention. It's about looking into their eyes and feeling that spark that no video on earth can ever give you. Because true passion doesn't come from watching others connect. It comes from experiencing connection yourself. When you let go of the artificial and lean into the authentic, something incredible happens. Your desire becomes deeper, your confidence stronger, and your pleasure more meaningful. You stop chasing quick dopamine hits and start craving emotional depth. You rediscover what it means to actually feel turned on by closeness, by trust, by vulnerability. That's when sex becomes more than physical. It becomes emotional, spiritual, even healing. So if you've felt that disconnection, if you've noticed that spark fading, it's not too late. You can bring it back. Start by choosing presence over pixels, emotion over escape, connection over consumption. The most intoxicating experience in the world isn't what you see on a screen. It's the person right in front of you. Because when love is real, when it's raw, honest, and present, that's when passion becomes unforgettable.